Right, my name's Future Richardson. I'm an ex-GB junior powerlifter. I'm 21 years old, and my best lifts to date are a 403 kilogram squat, a 227.5 kilo bench, and a 400 kilo deadlift. So a bit about myself. I started training when I was about 15, and I started training to actually supplement bouldering, which I was doing at the time. So I was focusing more on upper body. I was 15, so I was just focusing on like getting a big arms and big chest to fill out my medium t-shirt and worrying about looking good at school. And then that slowly developed into where the gym took over from the climbing, and I fell in love with that. And I've always had an obsessive nature, and I've always wanted to be the best at whatever I've done. So that instinct kind of kicked in, and then I found myself probably 3 years down the line travelling to Borough Bridge to Darren Sadler's gym to train with Jonty and a group of powerlifters there. And that's where I kind of started powerlifting seriously. My numbers weren't anything to kind of suggest that I'd be where I'm at now. I pulled 260 when I went there, and then obviously, what's it now, 3 years later, I've pulled 400, so it's all happened quite quickly. But like I say, going to that gym definitely put things into perspective that, I'm not that strong. I'm from a little town and not much goes on, so it's quite easy to be a bit ignorant to other things that go on maybe in the strength sport world, just not knowing what happens. So going down there and meeting people like Darren and Benny, and then eventually people like Terry and Eddie Hall all coming in, they just set the kind of foundations of kind of what I perceive to be possible. And that's definitely helped me in powerlifting, pushing on now. So I did my first comp in July 2016. I totaled 768. I did a 290.5 squat, a 167.5 bench, and a 310 kilo deadlift. And that was at like 113 kilos body weight, and that was my first competition. I then did my first British Championship in the October, where I squatted 320.5, bench 180, and pulled 330. I then went to the European Championships, and I don't know why, but for some reason over the Christmas period, I'd wanted to dabble in the strongman then. I always wanted to do strongman because all the people I've ever looked up to in strength sports have been strongmen. So that's all I wanted to do. So I was kind of trying to come away from the powerlifting a bit then, but then, Darren and some other people told me, stay a bit longer, get that strength base up, and then when you go across, you'll thank me for it. So I did. I took his advice. Euros wasn't my best performance. I totaled 835, but I won. And I went to Worlds, and that's the second time that I lifted against Pavlo, who is probably someone who you'll become familiar with in the next few years as well. Big Ukrainian guy, weighs about 175 kilos, same age as me, but he's a good 175 kilos. He's an absolute giant. And he beat me there. And I think that that was probably the best thing that's ever happened to me, because losing there was what triggered almost that that mindset that I've always had, but maybe lost for a bit over that time in winter, where I'd never been beaten before up to that point. So I'd never wanted to lose again, and I haven't to date really. So it definitely was a good thing for me. So I lost there, and then I came back, did the British Championships 6 months later, and totaled 910 kilos. I did a 360 squat, 202.5 bench, and a 347.5 deadlift. And that was my last comp before going into the World Championships the following year. And I've never put pressure on myself like I did for that. I dropped out of my final year of uni because I wanted to win it that badly. Everything was falling apart around me, but I was just so focused on doing that. And for, a 20-year-old kid, that's quite a lot to handle. But somehow I did it, and I did win, thankfully. I'd have been kicking myself if I didn't. And then there I squatted 380 there, bench 210, and pulled 370. And that was the first time I'd broke a world record. I broke the world record deadlift and the world record total. And then the comp after that was the British Championships. That's the second to last comp that I've ever done. At that comp, I totaled 1,000.5 kilos. I was the youngest person in history to do that, tested, untested, sleeves or wraps, and I did it tested and in sleeves. at 21. I did a 400 kilo squat, a 220.5 kilo bench, and a 380 kilo deadlift. And that still to this day, although I increased it, is the biggest raw total ever done in British powerlifting. Again, tested, untested, wraps or sleeves, and done at 21 years old. And then 6 weeks later, I came to face again Pavlo in Lithuania. And it was quite cool in Lithuania because at the European Championships, I actually got a chance to lift in front of Zajunas, who was there, because obviously he's from Lithuania. So SBD brought him across. And that was really cool. So at that comp, that's where I squatted 403 kilos, I benched 222.5 kilos, and I deadlifted 385 kilos. And that left me with a 1,010.5 kilo total, which Pavlo actually totaled the same, 1,010.5. So the junior world record total the year prior was, I think, 930. So we'd both put, upwards of, 80 kilos on the world record total from the previous year, which was definitely an eye-opener for me and kind of let me know that this is what I want to do in my life. Since I lost that Worlds, this is all I thought, this is what I want to do in my life. I dropped out of uni, I'm all in. And now transitioning over to Strongman, I think what sparked that is that I've always said that I wanted to do Strongman, I've always wanted to be a Strongman. Everyone I've ever looked up to has been a Strongman. I've been putting it off for long enough. I went to Britain's Strongest Man in January to help out with the Giants Live crew, and I just stood there and thought, this is where I want to be, and if I think I could be here, why aren't I? So 6 months down the line, I've been struggling with hip injuries and things just not going my way for a competition that I didn't really care about. All I cared about was pulling 400 kilos. I didn't care where I did it. So the hip injury was getting better, then it was getting worse, and it was getting better, then it was getting worse. So eventually I thought, right, this powerlifting comp, like I said, doesn't mean that much to me. What I want to do is I want to be a strongman, and if I end up injuring my hip for a powerlifting comp, I'm going to be absolutely furious at myself. So I decided to drop out of the Worlds, which meant not squatting, which has allowed my hip to get better. And that's when I pulled 400 kilos in the gym and benched 227.5. So I'm 2 weeks into the strongman training now. Things are feeling good. I've got some good mentors. I've got Darren, obviously, by my side, which is going to be a very, very resourceful thing to kind of make sure that I'm getting things right. And then obviously meeting all the lads at Body Power and getting to know them as well. Their experience is going to be invaluable to me because, these are guys who've been in the sport for decades. I perfected powerlifting. I knew everything about the techniques and how to do it, but strongman, it's completely unknown to me, and I'm definitely new and I feel new. So the quicker that I can learn to do things properly, the quicker I'll be achieving what I want to achieve, which is ultimately winning World's Strongest Man a few times and going down as one of the best to ever do it. That's what I want to do in my life. I've left myself no other option, no plan B, it's plan A, and I'm going for it. You don't want to say anything, but then because you don't want to offend people, but someone will always get offended. I think I could be at World's Strongest Man next year. I do. I think if I apply myself like I've applied myself in the past and give what I know I can give, I've built a good strength foundation. I need to learn, and part of that experience is going to be competing. I'd love to be at World's Strongest Man next year, if not the year after that, and then slowly just chipping my way up the ranks and it taking as long as it needs to take. I've got no plans on coming in and then getting out as fast as I can. I'll happily do this till I'm 40 if I can, injury free. So everything's about longevity and just kind of taking my time and make sure I do things properly. But I'd love to be there next year, and then when I win it, I'm not sure. I'd say within the next 5 to 10 years, I think I could do my first one. That's the goal anyway. So you can follow me on Instagram at Luke Richardson, although the Luke has 2 E's in it, but I'm sure you'll find me. Go across there, you'll see all my lifting footage, all my training. Any questions, I'm happy to answer them if you slide in my DMs. And then obviously thank you to Official Strongman for letting me come on and do this video. It's a privilege to be on it this early, and hopefully I'll get a chance to do some more.